Walter Sorrells back with another Knife Makers Friday 5. So back with another Knife Makers Friday 5. Basically on the Friday 5s, I just kind of update folks on what's going on in the channel, maybe some courses I might be offering in the future, or some opportunities for you to learn some things, maybe some stuff I'm going to be selling soon. And I answer some questions. In this case, I'll be answering questions from Patreon supporters of the channel. So first thing coming up reasonably soon, I hope, I'm going to be doing a mini course about making a knife from a file. This is going to be something that I'm going to make available on my website. It's not a YouTube thing. It's going to be a little more extensive than that, actually a lot more extensive than that. Files, to me, are a really great place. You know, I know there are a lot of people who watch this channel and other similar channels who are, you know, kind of thinking about making a knife and maybe just not sure exactly, you know, the right place to start. I would really strongly say if you don't have, you know, a lot of budget and you really want to just kind of get your feet wet and see what the craft is like, making a knife from a file is a great way to start. So I'm going to be doing a little mini course, like I said, that's going to cover making, you know, basically how to make one really just from scratch using another file, how to grind one using a belt grinder, and then how to make a forged knife with a file or a rasp as a starting point. In the course of it, I'll be doing some stuff about heat treating. I'm really excited about doing it. I've never done one of these kind of mini course type things before, and so this will give me a chance to really, you know, do something in a longer format than I normally can do on YouTube. Along those lines, I'm also going to be doing a mini course later in the year about how I made my workbench. For those of you who might have been watching earlier this year, I moved to a new shop here, this place right here, and I built, you might say I overbuilt a workbench, but I wanted something that was going to act as somewhat of a little set that I could film on, but that was also going to be just completely rock solid. So this particular one is kind of L-shaped. So I'm going to, you know, have plans available for it in this mini course and all this kind of stuff. And the idea is that each of these two benches is made in very, very different ways. One of them is a little heavier and more solidly put together, and then the other one, which is a little cheaper to make and, you know, not quite as, you know, built like a tank, butts into that and kind of takes some of the rigidity from the other one. They're both pretty, you know, pretty stout things, but one of them is, like I say, it's like a battleship. So anyway, if you are interested in making a workbench, this will kind of give you two little models of some different approaches that might be useful for your shop. So look for that in, it's probably going to be towards the end of the year before that comes out. So speaking of getting started as knife makers, I have this little PDF that I give away. If you look down in the description, you can see how to sign up for that. You know, basically, when you sign up for that, I harvest your email if you're willing to let me send you some stuff, and this will notify you about some of the stuff that I'll be teaching later on in the year. So it's, you know, it's a good opportunity to get hold of some information that's going to be, how would I say it, bigger scale type stuff, longer type classes than, you know, than I can teach on YouTube. So another thing that's upcoming for me that kind of dovetails with my YouTube channel, you know, I have this line of production knives, Tactics Armory, which I started quite a few years ago, and sort of went into a lull. You know, I still make the Tactics Armory knives, but I just stopped designing new ones a few years back. Not really intentionally, I just had other stuff on my plate and it kind of got away from me. Anyway, I'm getting to a point where I want to kind of freshen up the line of Tactics Armory blades, and I think that's going to be a fun opportunity to talk about the process of designing knives, sort of the philosophy of designing knives, and, you know, what I look for when I'm designing a knife. The first set of knives that I designed for Tactics Armory were extremely stripped down functional knives. The whole, you know, idea of the Tactics Armory lineup was these are just really, really functional knives. They're not supposed to look super cool or scary or anything. They're just supposed to function. So the next set that I want to do, I want to spend a little more time designing them, a little bit more time on the aesthetic side of it, while maintaining the functionality of the blade. Also, you know, I've learned a lot about manufacturing things over the years, and so hopefully I can pass along some of those lessons that I've learned about how to get mid-tech or production-ish type knife out the door at a price that's not going to bankrupt the average American customer. So anyway, watch for some videos that are going to be, you know, kind of chronicling my thinking on that score as I start designing some of these new blades. Speaking of blades, I'll be at the Blade Show this year. You know, it's a funny thing, Blade Show is, I'm outside Atlanta, and so the Blade Show is very close to where I am. I go every year, but I've literally never had a table. I've been making knives for over 20 years now, never had a table. This year I'm gonna have a table, so if somebody's interested in, you know, picking up a knife from me or just stopping by and saying hi, love to see you there. More details to follow. Obviously, that's down the road a few months, but I'll keep you posted about that as we get closer. So in that vein, most of you guys who've been following me for a while know that Pop's Knife Supplies has been sponsoring some of my videos recently. So very cool things happening. They're going to be moving to a much bigger facility. They've already purchased the facility, and so now they're in the process, the super fun process, I can tell you, of moving from one place to another. I recently did that here. So anyway, the upshot is that after Blade Show, they're intending, you know, if everything works out, to have some kind of, you might say, Blade Show after party. So the Monday, I guess, after Blade Show, they'll have, you know, some special doodah up there. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye on the Pop's website and see what they'll be doing up there. Okay, so we will wrap up by doing a few viewer mail questions. This week, my questions are going to be from Patreon supporters. Just a little footnote on that. For those of you who are not aware of what Patreon is, sometimes people kind of get the impression that it's maybe like a commerce site or something, or that I'm selling stuff through Patreon. That's not the case at all. It's just intended as kind of a tip jar. I've been, you know, making videos for 12, 13 years on YouTube. You know, I get a couple nickels, you know, of advertising revenue, but basically I probably make about $2 an hour making these videos. And so if you want to help support the channel, Patreon's the avenue for doing that. You know, you get some free plans, and there's some other things depending on your pledge level, you know, that I give away as thanks for that. But otherwise, you know, it's not a transactional commerce type thing. Okay, so anyway, my first question from a Patreon supporter, Bob Ingram. Basically, the idea is, can you use a Harbor Freight hand crank hydraulic press for forging? In other words, can you replace, you know, this electrically driven hydraulic forge press with a hand cranker? And, you know, basically the answer is no. The hand crank, I forget if the ones they sell at Harbor Freight are 10 tons or 20 tons or whatever. Anyway, they can squash pretty hard, but it doesn't move very fast. So the bottom line is that, you know, a hand cranker is just not going to go fast enough. You might be able to upgrade it, you know, by adding a pump and a motor and all that stuff. But if you've got the skill and the gear to do that, you're probably better off to start from scratch and build it all yourself anyway, because then you're making it specifically for this task. I could be wrong, but I suspect that if you just converted one, you know, you'd be kicking yourself later because it wouldn't really do what you wanted it to. Okay, so next question is, do you need stainless steel heat treating foil when you're heat treating stainless steel? If you watch people making stainless steel knives, they'll typically wrap the blade in stainless steel heat treating foil before sticking it in the heat treating oven. I'm pointing over here because my forge is over here. And here's the reason why. If you heat steel, there's carbon in the steel. Carbon is what makes iron into steel, right? So there's carbon in solution in the steel, just like there would be salt in solution in water or something like that. So as that steel heats up, the carbon starts moving around, and the hotter that it gets, the faster that carbon can migrate through the steel. Anytime carbon gets to the surface of the steel, it's going to form carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide and be sucked out the flue, and therefore you have less carbon in the steel. So over time, this process of what's known as decarburization causes the surface, at least, of the steel to have less and less carbon, and therefore your steel starts to lose the qualities that you were expecting it to have. A second thing that happens is that the exterior of the steel, if you don't have it protected in the heat treating oven, will scale and pit, and you'll have all kinds of appearance problems. Bottom line is that, you know, whichever the case, or I mean, both of these things are happening simultaneously, you're going to have to grind a whole bunch of steel off of the surface to get back to a decent knife. And that's a big pain in the neck, and it's very preventable, so why do it? So that's the point of heat treating foil. It's, you know, it's not aluminum foil. Aluminum melts at 1700 degrees. It's a very specialized type of foil. It's not cheap, but if you don't use it, you'll mess up your knives. So unfortunately, if you're heat treating stainless steel, you got to have heat treating foil. All right, we will wrap it up there for this week. I'm going to be going down to Florida for spring training with my son Jake next week, so probably no videos next week, nothing on YouTube, but the following week I'll be back and should have a new video for you. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and keep on making those knives.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and make sure that you click on that bell so you get notified of all the latest videos. Want to buy a knife from me? Check out my modern blades at tacticsarmory.com. Digging the channel? You can support our video making efforts on Patreon. You know, I've been banging away on these videos for like 10 years, so I hope you'll show some love for all that hard work. Link in the cards and descriptions. Finally, if you're interested in making Japanese swords, check out my full line of Japanese sword videos where I show how to forge Japanese swords as well as how to polish them and how to make fittings, handles, and scabbards. WalterSorrellsBlades.com.